So is this the part where we're not supposed to talk? You didn't tell me. Kind of like...
So we're off to an amazing start.
So is this the part where we're not supposed to talk?
Oh my god, something's just gone wrong.
You didn't
What
tell
am
me. Kind of like...
Right, you're looping this through your mic or something, aren't you? Something's happening. Have I just...
So we're off to an amazing start.
So is this the part where we're not
I know
supposed to
what's
talk? You just did it twice.
Okay,
You
that
do.
was the worst intro thing I've ever
Do
done,
anything.
but I had Twitch playing in the background and I thought Steve had like looped it through his mic or something. So that was the best intro I could ever do. So yeah, welcome to episode 26 of Dynamically Spoken, the weekly Guild Wars 2 PvE podcast brought to you by Guildmag and hosted live by Sitting on a Couch Gaming. We are live every Friday at 5 PM Pacific time on our partners channel twitch.tv/SOAC Gaming. And you will see that today I am joined as always by Steve and by the lovely Vareen from Under the Pale Tree. Oh. Hello Vareen, how are you?
Pretty good.
Good.
I was kind of asked to do this last minute, so I don't have anything prepared.
So yeah, Jason pulled out at the last minute, so yeah. But we've got Vareen. And next week, Ali should be back as well, so it's all go down here. So this week we have got loads of stuff to talk about. We're going to be talking about the Super Adventure Box packs to Quattle. I've never been able to say that, I just avoid saying it. To Quattle Rising and more, so do stay with us. And as always, let us know what you're thinking as we're going along. But as Jason's not here, it's fallen on me to do the weekly news, so I'm going to attempt it in one breath like Jason does, but no promises. So here we go. What you 2 free precursors? Yeah, no, I'm not giving any of those away. Okay, so here is the news. On the 3rd of September, the Super Adventure Box Back to School was released. This update brought with it a completed World 2, new Tribulation Mode, which pushes players to their limits, new Super Weapon Skins, new Weapon Skins for players who complete the Worlds in Tribulation Mode, new Mini Princess Maya, and a new Mini Moto. We also received Ascended Weapon Crafting, Legendary Stat Switching, and Magic Find was moved to an account-wide stat. Of course, all the info can be found in the release notes, which will be in the show notes. To go along with the Super Adventure Box, the Guild Wars 2 team have put together a guide with as many of the recent patches, which will be linked in the show notes. It's not going well. New gem store items have been released. They include a permanent super explosive finisher, a new Super Adventure Box miniature collection for World 2, a new infinite continue coin for those of you who are like me who aren't very good at the game, and a new transmutation splitter which basically returns the 2 original items used in a transmutation. We also received a message from Her Royal Highness Queen Jenna basically outlining that there are no more surprise announcements in store, so she is not preggers or about to become Mrs. Thackeray, so there go our theories. Similarly, a short story entitled Shadowbox has been written by John Ryan has been released, revolving around Moto and his SAB. And finally, Season 1 of World v World is coming on the 4th of October, running till the 21st of November. North America will get 2 leagues of 12 worlds each, and Europe will get 3 leagues of 9 worlds each, with the season lasting for 7 weeks. And as always, all the links for this will be on the show notes. Jason needs to come back and do the news, because that was terrible.
What are you talking about? You did it in one breath. That's what we can ask for.
It's a big one. Alright then, so let's go back to school and talk about SAB. It turns out that all 3 of us haven't really done that much of it, so we're going to try and kind of wing it. But yeah, thoughts on
Wing it, we'll ask you.
Well, so does anyone have any thoughts on World 2? I haven't been able to sample it because I haven't had time and I'm generally pretty bad at it. I haven't even got to Zone 2 yet, but I've heard a lot of people saying it is like Zone 2 and Zone 3 are pretty difficult. For me, like doing Zone 1 I found difficult. So what do you guys think? Difficult?
I haven't really gotten to try it yet. I suck at Super Adventure Box. I'll just be flat out honest. I'm terrible at platformers. I suck horribly at it, and I feel sorry for my guildies who played through World 1 with me before, especially because we did it a lot. I tried Zone 2 World 1, and I died really fast. And it's like, okay, I'll do an infantile mode. And it was bugged and wouldn't let me go in infantile mode. So it's like, all right, I guess I'm not doing that. And I guess they patched the bug yesterday, and then they nerfed a lot of the difficulty of World 2 today, but I still haven't gotten a chance to really try it out yet.
Mm.
I mean, as far as I could see, like what basically, you know, I haven't got the chance to play yet because it came out and, you know, work sucks. So this weekend is when I'm really going to dive into it. But during work, I've been sneaking on my cell phone and like watching streams of people, you know what I mean? Like having the thing in one ear like this and just like the phone right down there and watching. And the surprising thing I really think is some people are like up in, you know, there's always people that are like up in arms ready to kill, you know, the developers and their children and families because Super Adventure Box is too hard for them. And it's delightful that their personalities are like that. But what's my real concerns is people have already beaten the hardest tribulation mode. Like I watched Teldo and he beat it. And I was watching another streamer, I forget their name, and they beat it. And there's like plenty of stuff on YouTube with people showing you how to do it, the original method. So I think it's like, I don't know, is it people they feel like there's always the entitled word, but do they feel entitled that they have to finish this because it's there? It's like this is supposed to be like be the what's it called?
I want to be the guy.
Yeah, I want to be the guy, and like and I'm like and Isaac, whatever that one is, the weird puking blood babies game. Was it like Isaac something? It's a real sick game. That's where Bible Thump comes from. I don't know if you guys like this face here. BIBLETHUMP. This guy, whatever game he's from, and like these super difficult games that people play and love, and it's like, and when people talk about it, they say it's like it's unfair, and that's the way. Thank you, Binding of Isaacs, YTMND. Like these games, it's like about like there's no possible way you can avoid not falling for the stuff that they do because it's completely unexpected. Like there's no rhyme or reason, but it's like being able to get through a developer who's strictly trying to make you fail. Like they're doing this on purpose, and they're trying to like throw stuff that you can't possibly do, and you have to find a way to outsmart the developer trying to trick you constantly. And that's the whole fun of these impossible difficulty games. And I think if you can't do it, it's not your fault. It's not the dev's fault. It's just, you know, the content is difficult. That's the way it was designed. And again, I haven't played it yet, but I've just been watching people play it, and I've watched people play Binding of Isaac, and I Want to Beat the Bashi or whatever the hell that game is called. and it's just that's the way these games are, and like I think they were trying to emulate that, and people get upset about it, like, and they think it's like, and they yell and scream, like the same with the jumping puzzle from freaking Halloween, like how mad people get because of that, and it's just like it's like you can't do it, you know, like Alana, she's like, I'm just not good at it, I'm not able to beat it, life moves on, like I just, you know, we get new content every 2 weeks. It's not like you can't beat it and then that's it. You're never playing Guild Wars 2 again. 2 weeks later, something else is going to come out and you can beat that. You know, it's like every 2 weeks doesn't, like what I like about the 2 week content is if I don't like the content, like I just don't have to play it and I can do other stuff like beat bosses and stuff for a couple weeks. And then the 2 weeks later, I have a chance for another. Like that's what's so great about this game is it doesn't have to be strictly for everybody. They could kind of like say, well, we're going to do this type of stuff here and this type of stuff there, and you might not be able to do it, and that's just the way life is, and I don't understand why it's a big deal. That's basically 20 minutes of ranting, and basically what it comes down to is I don't understand why it's a big deal.
Yeah.
You're talking about people getting mad about it. I was in Bent the other night where 3 other people in my guild were doing World 2, and it was just, I was sitting here trying, like, laughing so much because they'd be talking, and suddenly an outburst of swearing because someone died some horrible death, fell off a ledge, got lost, and it was so funny.
So yeah, I mean,
and it's enjoyable, and like that's what people were saying. Like it's fun to listen to those people nerd rage all the time. Like that's part of the fun.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's actually that many people sort of doing it though, because I was in it today for a few hours trying to cram some in before this show. Like I've got to have done something, and there was actually only kind of a handful of people in the actual hub. So it kind of like shook me a little. I kind of assumed it to be really sort of popular. Like the last kind of, it was, in April.
I don't know. I kind of feel like the hub population is a hard way to judge, simply because of the way, like, World 2 is hard, and Tribulation mode is hard, and because of the fact that there's no save states, once people go in to actual levels, they're not leaving unless they get disconnected or something, or they finish.
Yeah.
Which means they're going to be actually in the Super Adventure Box instead of just chilling out in the hub.
Yeah. Like, it's too early. People aren't going to hang out and brag about it yet. You know what I mean? Like, show off their cool toys because everybody's trying to grind it out and get it. So, I guess most people are probably in it, I think. Because you go on, like, the forums and Reddit, and like, that's all people are talking about. Like, it's unbelievable. Like, 1 out of every 5 things on Reddit or the forums and the PvP discussion, it's all about SAB. Like, people are loving it. It's just, again, there's the people who are loving it are playing it. You know what I mean? The people who can't do it and they feel like they should be able to are crying on the forums and crying on Reddit. And that's just kind of the way it is. That's why, like, it's so difficult for the developers to actually gauge the response because, like, people who are having fun are playing it. And what are you going to do?
Plus, the other thing I've noticed is just doing, like, the meta events. There's so few people doing them compared to, before. I mean, obviously during Invasions and during the Pavilion, they'd be kind of empty, but, like, if you go to, Jormag or the Shatterer or, I did Fire Elemental earlier, and there was only, like, 10 people. That's really low population for my server because everybody's doing Super Adventure Box.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think it's something that, like, starting next week, like when people have time under their belts, like they did it and they're like, relaxing now, they taking a break. Like that's when you're going to start seeing people hang out and talk about it a lot. Because right now, I think everybody's neck deep. I mean, I go on, it's, it's like usually they're taking a break and then they're about to go back in. When I try and say hello to the guildies during the week, I'm like, basically I come home from work and like I go on for like a little bit and I say hi to everybody. I do a couple bosses, then I log off because I just don't have time. That's why it's my birthday tomorrow, so I'm going to spend a birthday as any healthy person would do inside, not talking to anybody and playing Super Adventure Box.
Hey, if it works, it works.
That's right.
Do you know one thing that's actually really annoyed me about this is you can't get obsidian shards for bauble bubbles anymore. I think last week I was like, oh, I'm so excited for this. I can finally get the obsidian shards I need for my legendary. I looked and I was like, no! So.
I think it would have been, yeah. I mean, is there any specific reason that you think they did that?
You see, I can't think of one. It's like, why haven't they also included the rest of these super weapon skins this time around? Like, that's another point I was going to bring up.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
Because, I mean, they actually, like they said, they weren't happy with how they did it last time, but to me it seems like, why would you be happy again? All you've done is what you did last time, but with, like, another half of the set kind of thing. Like, once again, people don't have the full choice of what skin to get. So, I think that's kind of weird.
I don't know. I'm watching the trading post because I have the super shield on my warrior.
Yep.
And I want the super axe to match it because I use axe shield as my main weapon set, and I have a mystic axe right now, which kind of matches. But it's like I want that super axe, but I don't want to do super adventure box enough to get enough baubles to buy it, so I'm just gonna buy it on the trading post once it gets a little cheaper.
I mean, I guess that is it. Like, you could buy the stuff on the trading posts. You know, it's not like it's bind. It's you get it, and then you could, there's like you can get it on the trading post pretty readily. That's how I got the shield that but yeah, I can't wait for the pistol. It goes pew pew. I mean, it's just freaking awesome. I want a pew pew pistol. I'm just gonna I got the what was it called, the crystal looking weapons that they
Zenith.
Yeah, sorry, Zenith, you're out of here. See you later. I'm getting a pistol, man. That thing looks amazing.
All right. So
he says hard mode has all the weapons.
Yeah, if you do, because if you do tribulation mode, when you beat each world, you get an item, and then you can buy the weapon frame or whatever from Moto. You chuck it all into the forge, and they do a different color for each world. You can get all of the weapons that way.
Yeah, that's right. Victory.
Okay, so in the last few hours they have actually patched to make some parts of World 2 easier, especially sort of Zone 1 it seems they've done a lot of focus on. So I'll just pull out a few things quickly. The damage inflicted by the rapid water has basically been removed, and the knockback distance has been greatly reduced, which for me is like, oh yes, because I just get knocked in and I'm away. See you next week. So yeah, the the spin flowers have also been changed so that they will only launch players to a predetermined location, which that was really annoying.
That's
as well.
Probably a good thing.
Okay.
Because I'd be facing one way, I'd be like, oh crap, and then before I could change it, I'd be zooming off. So,
it's like it's suddenly you're in outer space.
The bears will drop an orange bauble when defeated, which is worth 10 baubles. The geysers will always remain up and never go back down. Does that mean the bit in Zone 1 where it's like in the river and they go... Why am I asking you two? You don't know. Why am I asking you?
Yeah, why don't you ask chat?
Okay, chat, help me out.
Chat knows all.
Chat will know.
They know more than us on Super Adventure Box, I'm sure.
Maybe they're as clueless as you two.
Well, I mean, there is a delay.
Yeah. Well, we'll move on.
You can't say, "Hey, chat, what do you think?"
They'll tell us and we can go back to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, generally it seems like they've made it easier, which is a good thing in my book. All right.
I mean, I guess it is a good thing that my rant was kind of pointless. I take my whole rant back. I just had a busy week at work and I'm kind of tired, etc., etc., etc. Podcasters are humans.
Okay, shall we move on then? Unless anyone else has got anything to mention about SAB. Nope.
We could mention the SAB story, the Shadow Box.
Oh, I haven't read it, so you're gonna have to carry me through. I'm sorry.
You haven't read it?
Not yet.
Oh, come on. How dare you be on the show and not do the content that we're talking about? I don't know anybody who's on this show right now who doesn't do the content that we just talked about. I don't know anybody except you, the Shadow Box. It's the only person I know.
Is it a good story?
It was amazing.
Really? What?
It was amazing. I liked it.
I liked it. I'm not terribly interested in, anything Asuran related, to be perfectly honest. It's not my favorite thing, but I do really like the little short stories that they've been releasing with all the content, part of a background of what's going on.
You see, this would be interesting to get your opinion on, because in past episodes we've actually been kind of like, okay, yeah, we appreciate these short stories, but we'd rather all the lore and kind of work that goes into them was rather in-game than as like what they release on the website. Where do you kind of stand on that? Would you prefer it if it was all in-game and you could find it there, or do you prefer
I would prefer it more if it was more available in-game, but I kind of feel like it's one of those things where the people who don't care are just going to ignore it being there, and the people who do care are going to take the time to seek it out. And including it in-game is probably more work than they have time for with these content releases. And myself, I'm a reader. I prefer stuff to be presented in written format. So I kind of feel like with, the way they're doing this compromise, I do like that they're releasing the little short stories. I prefer it over cutscenes, to be perfectly honest, because I usually wind up skipping cutscenes once I've seen it once. Whereas with the story, it's easy to go back and reread it and see stuff you might have missed.
Yeah, I think what Alana says is making perfect sense, because that's exactly what I was thinking as well. Like, the developers only have a certain amount of time. Like, they can't, the reason why it was probably made into short stories is because ArenaNet realized that people want more lore, and they're giving them more lore, but they just don't have time to put it in game. So they're doing the next best thing they can. Not only that, but it's making not only the lore junkies happy, but it's making the lore writers happy, because they have a chance to express themselves in word, which is what they love to do. They're kind of like writers,
Yeah.
And they're telling their story, which is great. And as far as the story itself, like, for people, it's basically the creator of Moto, the creator of Super Adventure Box, was down on his luck. Like, it's a really cool story about how he was just down on his luck, and different things happen. I won't spoil any more for anybody who hasn't read it, but it was really, I liked the way, I think that the writer did an excellent job of portraying a Soren personality and the mindset. I think they did a really good job, because it feels like that Soren are not one to talk about their personal lives at all. Like, they just kind of, like, it's all about, like, how do I appear to everybody else? Do I appear smarter? I guess that's how you organize your crew or whatever. And I think he did a really good job of, like, going a little bit into Moto's mind, but not too much. Like, just giving you a little taste of what it would be like, of inside the mind of Minnesota, and how they struggle against the pressure to consistently invent something great. I think it's fascinating, a culture that is completely and solely motivated by invention. Like, that's the main drive of the Sora, is invention, creating. And if you can't create, then you're considered nothing to a Soren. Like, you're just considered, like without science, you're nothing. Exactly.
I kind of had the same feeling about it as well. Obviously the primary purpose of the story is to, show the background of why this Super Adventure Box exists. But at the same time, it kind of shows, a different side of a certain society that isn't really present, because all we see in the game are, the geniuses who can invent everything and anything ever at the snap of a finger. And things go wrong, but they keep going at it. And we've never really seen, what happens if something goes wrong, and say, an invention doesn't work as planned, or people don't like your invention. So it's kind of an interesting way to see another side of it.
I mean, to me, that's one of the supremely enjoyable thing about these short stories, is it seems there seems to be a lot of depth. Like, this one and the Evan Nash Blade immediately come to mind, of, like, real insights into the culture. Like, it's giving us super amounts of substance about the culture, like, and how they deal. You know what I mean? Like, Evan Nash Blade was basically a violent, hostile takeover. It was violent, and it's just showing you, like, the way that, I mean, because me, that's always, like, I love that. I love interacting, seeing two forces, and how, like, in detail, like, the conversation, how it goes, play by play, of how that interaction happens. And to me, that's the interesting stuff, because you always hear people go, et cetera, blah, 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 and then they just tell you the end. Whenever anybody tells you a story, you don't really see, like, word for word exactly what happened. Because whenever people tell you a story, like,
it's an interpretation.
yeah, at least 25% of it is not true. Like that, they said that's a fact. Like this is a study of human. Like what you remember is not exactly what happened. Like this is 100%. Your mind fills in gaps. So when you can actually see, granted it's not real, but you can actually see the play-by-play of how something happened. Then I think that's amazing. I love that. I think that's what it brought to the story.
Personally, like, in my opinion, with the amount of background and hidden depth that is present in these stories, I don't really think they'd be able to portray that if they did include it as in-game cutscenes. There would be, let's be honest, there would be stuff lost if they had it as a cutscene instead of something we could sit down and read and be able to tease out the nuances of.
Exactly. That's why everybody says books are better than movies. Yeah. It's a fact.
I 100% agree to that one.
Yeah, because books can, like, when you're in a movie, like, everything has to be, like, so much in a movie is facial expressions. And they have to communicate by that. And a lot of times, depending on the portrayal or, like, our ability to read what they're trying to communicate, it's not as definitive but yet subtle like a book can be. A book will communicate something to you. It'll be definitive because it's written there, but it'll be subtle at the same time in the way that they communicate it. And then you could, like, you get confused by something, you could stop and then go back, and you know what I mean? Like with a movie, it kind of, I don't know, feels weird, like stopping and then going back. Usually a movie, you just kind of watch it through and you watch it maybe more, but a book, you can literally, like, stop right there and jump back and then read the words again. It seems much more definitive and much better that way.
And, like, I'm an avid reader. I read a lot, and I find that in books frequently stuff is presented a bit more open-ended, so you can, like, ultimately the story goes this way, the characters are this, that, and the other, but it's easier to draw your own conclusions, whereas with movies it's generally a lot more clear-cut as to, what's going on.
Yeah.
Which is, I feel, the same thing with this.
Yeah, movies appeal to the masses, so it has to be definitive, or other people are going to go, I don't get it. What's going on? What is that supposed to mean? It's like, dude, like, try to use. It's cool. That's the one thing I think books are so much better than movies. This is a whole discussion. I'm going to ramble on, so never mind. What's next?
Okay. If you want to move on, then should we move on to Ascended Weapons?
Well, what do you have to think about Shadowbox? What do you think about it?
Me?
I'm joking.
In chat, actually, Schuster said, like, having these stories as books in game would be would be a cool idea. That would be neat, like, because they have in, like, if you go in Ebonhawk, there's all the books scattered around that tell the founding of Ebonhawk, and then there's all the different books in Divinity's Reach, rather. There's the Plaques and Lion's Arch. Something like that would actually, if they were able to incorporate that sort of thing in more, that would be a pretty neat way to include the content into the game, as well as presenting it as a short story on the website where people who want to read it all in one go can do so.
I think that would probably, like, be a really good next evolution of it, to pull it if people want it in game. People want the short stories, you have to copy the short story on the website, and also you put it in game for people who want that more lifelike experience. And granted, like, sometimes you can't, because if it's like a current event, then why is it going to be written down? And that, like, somebody had a great idea for development. Again, this requires more development. Maybe this in the 4-week cycle that they're going to have, or the 8-week cycle that the 14 is going to be. Maybe they can do it, where they said that, like with Scarlet, when she had the confrontation with the Asuran, I think it was an Inquest Asuran or a regular Asuran, I forget. When she turns into Scarlet from Sierra, where it would be like the camera, and the camera, like, you watch, it would be kind of like a cutscene, sort of, but the camera would be watching this cut, like, it's a way to rewind time, but have it, like, live acted, so to speak, where it would just be like a surveillance camera that was installed there, and you find, like, the crystal or whatever that has the movie on it, and you watch, the crystal as it being the story happening back then. So, that would be pretty cool.
I agree. Can someone check out what?
In chat, someone just linked a thread about basically Bobby talking about these kind of things and how they'd like to include more basically says, they'd like to do it, but sometimes they just don't have the time and resources. Which, yeah, I have a feeling that once they get more, because they did just shift to the 2-week, bi-weekly updates, which obviously it doesn't mean they're spending 2 weeks on each update, but still, that's going to speed up their development time a lot. So I think once maybe they get more used to it, more settled into this kind of, bi-weekly update schedule, we'll be able to see a lot more stuff like that included in game as they get more used to working with that time constraint.
Definitely. All right then, let's move on to the ascended weapons and crafting shizzle.
Before we do that,
go on,
real quick.
Go on. This is like the third time.
I saw a thing on YouTube where it's two Asoran talking to each other in game, and it's like 9 minutes of conversation.
Oh yeah, if you ever stop and listen to the NPCs, sometimes they just go back and forth for a long time. It's really fun.
Like this one is supposed to be, I think it's the longest conversation in game so far. It's literally like 9 minutes of them just talking back and forth, giving a lot of background. So I don't know if anybody has seen that yet or knows what I'm talking about. I've only seen the YouTube, and I was just watching it on my way to work one day. But it's something definitely to look for. It's just two. I think it's one of the people who used to work with Moto. I'm not sure. It's a female, and the female is actually like the Rock holding it down. And there's another guy who I think likes her, but she doesn't like him, of course. And it's something like that. But they have it's a really, really long conversation, like in parts. I think it's about 3 parts. But anyway, that was it. Sorry, Rowan, for interrupting you for the 37th time.
It's all right. So yeah, ascended weapons and crafting. Again, I haven't really looked at this because I've been busy. Sorry. So a few of my guildies have been sort of going for it and all that. So anyone know how easy they actually are to get? Because I think it was initially mentioned that they take around 2 weeks to craft one.
There is time gating involved. Getting to 500 isn't really an issue so long as you have the mats. Several people in my guild have hit 500 already on a crafting profession. And the stuff you use to refine for ascended mats, the bloodstone dust, the dragonite ore, the imperial fragments, you do get pretty regularly. Like, I haven't been hoarding boxes or anything like a lot of people do, and I have over a stack of bloodstone. I've got almost a stack of dragonite. And the thing is that there are refinements that you have to do to create the Daljamor steel and the spirit wood, and those are time gated. It's 1 per day. So getting there isn't going to be the difficult point. It's just basically that time gating that they put on those elements you have to refine.
Right, okay. One thing I did want to ask from last week, but I never got an answer to. With the time gated stuff, if you select craft all, does that count as just one? Like, will it only craft one? Or will it craft, like, the whole bunch and count it as...
It'll just craft one.
Alright, okay.
And then it'll be on cooldown for, I think it's 24 hours.
Right, okay. So what do you two think about the styling of the weapons then? Because last week this kind of was a bit of a controversial thing between me and Steve, because I kind of said they were quite kind of ornate and dainty, but that was generally just going on the greatsword. Actually looking
dainty.
I've only actually seen the greatsword. I still haven't seen any other ones yet, but I do like the greatsword design a lot.
I will. Okay, so there's the gallery courtesy of Dullfeet, but actually, I'm actually taking that back now. Having looked at the other skins for them, I actually do quite like some of them, especially I think.
I like that axe. The axe is pretty.
I'll just get it up now. What? I quite like the shield actually. I think that's quite cool. Yeah, the longbow I do like.
The red of it is such a great red.
Well, the color depends on what stats you use. The red is berserkers. Yeah, there's different colors depending on different stat types. I actually like all the skins in that set, to be honest. They're all really nice. And yeah, they are a lot more intricate than most weapon skins are, but I kind of feel like the game has lacked a lot of that in a lot of weapon skins. So I like the designs on almost all of them. That's rare. I'm really picky about skins.
And I think the great thing is, like, if it takes 2 weeks, so in a month, literally you can have whatever color or whatever stat you want, which I think is a really cool thing. if it takes 2 weeks to make them. So in a month, you make 2 of them, the color you want, and then the stat you want. You just transmute, and boom, you got whatever color you want. So I think maybe that could have been something they might have done. Might have been like thinking about like a way to have people who want, in particular, you know what I mean? Not just the weapon. They want the color and the weapon. It's a good way to prolong the content and to give, to give people the choice that they want. I think transmutation is such a great thing, by the way.
That's a good point, but I think the people who are seriously pursuing ascended weapons are going to put basically getting the stats they want over getting the correct color. And I think a lot of people will transmute them onto lower skins. Like, I'm in no rush to get my crafting up simply because technically I have the materials, but I have them set aside on a different character, so I don't use them because they're going towards a legendary. And I don't have the money to buy up the mats to get it up. But yeah, I would, because I really like the skins I've got on my Mesmer, and I would transmute those in an instant. I would rather have the skins I have now than those, as nice as they are.
Yeah, I think we were talking about this last week, like how many people who, obviously the people who are going to be crafting Ascended generally going to have exotics and generally like skins that they want already. So are these skins enough to make them keep it, or will they transmute it back? But for me, I'd transmute it to the weapons I've got now just because they're sexy. But yeah,
I like it, man. I like the.
So
they are really intricate. Anyway, go ahead. Yeah,
I was just gonna move on to another topic unless you've got anything to mention. Yeah. Okay. So the anniversary bash at PAX. I know, Vereen, you didn't get to see it. Steve, did you?
Yeah, I was able to watch a little bit of it because I was on break at work, and I'm like, all right, let's see if the Twitch app actually will work on my phone. I was able to see like a small amount of the panel, but it was like 20 minutes of it, and it kept crashing on me. So yeah, I missed almost all of the PAX stuff because I was working the entire weekend.
I was basically watching it. I sat on my bed, which is behind me there, with my TV on, and I was just like, for the whole thing. Yeah.
I saw enough to see that my guild was basically taking up the entire front row, but
that's cool.
So yeah, overall, it wasn't a bad show. So should we talk about the big thing then? Tecatl Rising. I've never been able to say. Am I saying it correctly? I can't tell.
Tecatl?
Yeah.
I usually say Tecatl. Some people say Tequatl. My guild tends to call him Taquito. So
I need to know what a British person would say.
Yeah, you can. I mean, you could say whatever.
All right, so
Taco is another one we call him.
So what do we think about it then? Should we focus like just on the gameplay content for now? Because obviously other things to talk about. Personally, I'm kind of in two minds about the whole thing. The gameplay we saw of it was definitely more challenging and required more sort of coordination than the stuff it's replacing now. But I'm kind of questioning how successful it's actually going to be. Like how successful you're going to be able to coordinate the Zerg, because you need people on the cannons kind of shooting them down to prevent bone walls, to prevent the poison that's around. There's a lot more to do that requires a lot of coordination, especially by kind of commanders, because we see like in World v World and on the champion trains now that Zergs can be coordinated there, but that's generally just a case of people turning up and killing the thing. There's no particular mechanics you kind of have to look for. So do you think it's, I don't know, how do you think it's, what do you think?
I think it's ambitious.
Yeah.
It's definitely ambitious. How well it'll work in practice, I guess we'll just have to wait and see once it's actually available. But, I mean, what they were saying, it's like you're going to need like 80 people, level 65, over level 65, appropriately geared to defeat this. And, there's time constraints. Yeah. There's stuff, if the bone walls go up, you got to destroy them. It's going to require a good amount of coordination. And I feel like that's going to be difficult simply because of the large number of people you'll need and the fact that the way this game's combat is set up, it's very hard to communicate in-game while you're actually fighting things. Yeah. Because if you stop, dodging and, using your skills for a few seconds to type something, chances are by the time you hit enter, you'll be dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Like, when you compare it to World v. World, the problem with World v. World and a lot of people is when you deal with PvE, it's repetition. You're doing the same thing over and over again. So I really don't see any issue with people eventually learning. The one mechanic I think people probably won't do because people get DPS happy is I don't know how many people will actually use the cannons to stop the poison stuff. Because there's one ability where it stops, you shoot it and it blows up the poison stuff. And I know people are never going to do that because nobody, there'll be the few good souls out there who will remember or they'll figure it out. And again, like if you remember, like you're going to do that because it's cool. It's like, hey, look, I'm killing the poison stuff. But when you deal with World v. World, like the issue with World v. World and a lot of people is it's not repetition. It's you have to be able to adjust because people are dynamic. People are the most dynamic content out there. They do different things every time. And when people, the biggest failure in World v. World for a lot of people is when they say, at this, I always have to do that. Granted, most of the time you should, but always is a bad word when you're dealing with people because people aren't always. Back to the Tocado. I think that you'll have the people like us who watched the event or maybe looked it on the bids, or you have people who were sitting in the front freaking row, like while they were explaining it and probably did the content themselves, like they'll be the ones to pick up the mantle and they'll be able to lead. And I think that's the great part about it is the more you're engaged with the community, the more you're engaged watching streams or watching that stuff, you can now take it's rewarding you for being engaged because now you're saying, hey, listen, I was engaged. I watched the stream. My friends were there. We understand how this is supposed to be done. We're going to help other people do it, the people who aren't engaged. And I think that's the just strong part of having harder content. You're rewarding the people who were there with being able to speak up and do it, and then the people who are new, they're able to do now something cool and difficult and coordinated, and it gets people working together. So I think that could only be good. I think it's the best type of ambition out there. I think people are starting to move. They want more difficult content. They're getting tired of being spoon-fed everything. So overall, I think it's a great thing.
What I'm interested to see is not only how well this will work out, because for the first few days it'll be rough while people figure out what the heck we're supposed to be doing to defeat Tocatl. But I'm interested to see then, once people do work it out and how, once it starts getting a bit smoother and, you're successful at it. And because if they're going to, then take that and use it to update some of the other meta events, let's be real. I like the meta events. They're very rewarding, but they are way too easy. They need to be scaled up and they need some massive changes. So I'd really like to see, how this then affects the other ones and if they're going to apply some of the changes for this to, say the Shatter or the, Claw Jarmag, because that'd be nice to see stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the great thing about it is you can have the rewarding content, you know what I mean? And then they could see how it's, because of course, the first week, it's going to be all the people crying in the forums and saying, I can't do this and I can't do that, and la 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 la, yada yada yada. But a week later, people are going to be able to do Super Adventure Box, or they're just going to say I'm not good enough, or I don't like the content, or it's just yada yada. But I think you can never judge the first word because people are very polarizing. And I think the biggest thing as a developer, which probably I wouldn't be able to do, so thank God I'm never a developer, is not listen, unless it's, I mean, again, where's the drawing point? But try not to listen to people the first week. Say, you know what, give it a little while. Can't say that because then they'll get mad and then they won't adjust at all. But it's a difficult road to walk in. Is basically what I'm saying. But hopefully, people give it a chance and then they'll pick it up, and then that'll now encourage ArenaNet to make more difficult content on the other meta events, which I think is really rewarding. There's
kind of a balance though, because at first it will be challenging, but I think there's a difference between something that's actually, a decent challenge and something where people just find it really difficult, because there's going to be some people where nothing's going to be much of a challenge for any amount of time. And then there's going to be other people who, maybe don't play the game quite as long or don't get to play quite as frequently. And they might genuinely find it difficult and, it may stay difficult. So I kind of think you got to get a balance of what people think. So, If a lot of people think it's too easy, maybe it may be. But if, some people are like, oh, this is too easy, or oh, this is too hard, you got to kind of find where that middle ground is. Like, we comment a lot on a lot of the dungeons we do. It's like, oh, this is easy. And it's like, no, it's not actually easy. We're just good at it. So it seems easier to us than it actually is.
Exactly. I think that's a really strong point.
I think like last week I did a run of Ascalonian Catacombs with my guild, and I hadn't done it in like months, and we were all like, do you remember a year ago when we all first thought this was the hardest thing in the world, and now we're just, walking through it as if it's nothing. So it's definitely valid.
I mean, I do AC pretty regularly simply because it's, for us, it's easy money. And we usually do Path 3. And when you get to the room where there's all the Graveling burrows that spawn, we were killing them so fast. Like, we'd just be sitting there, like, waiting. We'd kill it instantly, wait for the next one to spawn. And I actually posted a screenshot on Twitter of when we killed the last one. The very last burrow spawns at 84%. We killed it at 85. I don't think you can get faster than that. It's like, yeah, we do this a lot. So yeah, to us it's easy, but to someone who doesn't do that path, every day, it's not going to be that easy.
Yeah, definitely.
So one thing I did want to bring up is because you only have 15 minutes to kill to Crottle now, and because it's a massive challenge, do you think it's going to become more about how many people you have rather than what they're doing it? Because it seems like obviously the more people you have, the quicker it's going to go down.
I think it depends on how the mechanics for defeating him are going to work, because if there's only so many say there's only so many cannons or turrets you can control, there's only so many people who can use those, so having, more people than that's kind of extraneous and kind of almost at a point almost pointless. So I think when it comes down, it also depends on how well the scaling is going to work, because, if say you need on average 80 people to take him down and the zone is so full it overflows because everybody's there, he's going to scale up and get more difficult. So I really think it depends on how the mechanics work and how much of it just requires brute force and how much of it actually requires, okay, you go over here and do this, you go over there, there's 5 cannons, we need people on them.
And I think that's the real difficult part, because it's, trying to test it with 80 people to see how difficult it is. I think, okay, when I saw the stream, the PAX stream, the one thing that really encouraged me is every time a new group stepped up there and played it, they got a little bit farther every time, which to me, that is the most important thing. Like, people saw the original way that for the first people it was extremely difficult. Like, the lady had to hit it like 10 times from like 45k damage. And I think that was, a lot of times you're like, whoa, but then the second team came up and they made a little and the third team, they almost did it, so I think that right there, like, I think ArenaNet, like, the getting people to play it served 2 purposes. It let people hype up the content because you have people play it, and then they get excited about it. They want to do it in live. At the same time, it gave ArenaNet a nice little test where, like, we could get this many people up there. And we're gonna see if they improve and stuff like. Like, I think this, like, a lot of times people don't give credit to devs. Devs are not stupid. Like, you can't make a game and be an idiot, especially in MMO. So I think the fact that, like, they did this, it served 2 purposes, and I think it was a great idea for them to do
it. All right then. So, along with this patch, are we gonna be getting anything else PvE wise? Do you think? Because I mean, for two,
Live Spartan.
They're looking for group.
Well, we were gonna move on to that.
Finally,
ruined that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll talk about.
But I think
you're the one who's like, hey, is there anything else going to be included with this patch? Well, duh.
Okay, we'll talk about looking for group now.
Well, I think,
and then we'll come back.
I think it's important. Like, while we're on the subject of PvE,
yeah.
Live Spartan thought about the Carker Queen. Right now, the Carker Queen is giving more reward. 2 rares, 30 Orby thingy, Majigger, yada yadas, Draconian Orbs, whatever they are. 4 champ eggs. What are they called?
Dragonite orbs are the ones you get from bosses.
Yes, Dragonite orbs, 4 champ eggs, and a bunch of junky rares. well, now no junky blues and greens, but now they're not junk because it's Matty Yay. So they gave more, and Live Spartan is saying that it's going to be more difficult in the next patch. So we should probably get on farming that. And also, LS said that he thought or he read that Takado's going to scale up to 300 people. So
sounds pretty good.
That's about a zone's worth, I think. I think that's max. Max in a zone is 300, if I remember correctly, before it goes to overflow. Let's see, anything else? I
Let's
need
just
help
hope it doesn't lag
putting
out
in
the
this-
entire zone.
Yeah, it probably will.
Yeah.
And it only installs at 24, then stops and crashes, and I want to down the rest. If ever you're having crashing problems, money teams, the first thing I would recommend doing is going to malwarebytes.com, spelled like this, or malwarebytes.org, .org, and download that program and run it on your thing to make sure you don't have any malware. Because chances are when stuff starts crashing, it's probably a virus. Unless, of course, you haven't rebooted your computer. Like, first thing, of course, is reboot your computer. Have you restarted?
Have you turned it on and off?
But after, but funny thing is, that's real. Like, if people joke around about it, it is real. Like, the first thing you do, whenever you have a problem with your computer, is you turn it off. And
Restart it, because that solves it 90% of the time.
90% of the time it does. Anything else?
That face.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so shall we talk about the looking for group tool quickly then? It's only going to work. Isn't it only going to work on your server? Is that correct? Or have I just made that?
I think so.
Have I just made that?
Oops, that's not the right link. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's data center. So obviously someone on a North American server can't try to group up with someone on the Euro server. But as far as I know, it's going to be, it's cross-server.
Oh, okay.
So, like, if you're looking for a dungeon group and there's someone on another server who's looking for the same dungeon, you're not, screwed. Because pretty much everything is cross-server at this point, but world versus world.
Okay, so...
it's like... are you trying to hurry up this episode?
No.
I'll slow this thing right down right now. I will talk for 20 hours about the LFG tool.
Well, I got
Run
practice to
commercials.
do
Run
soon,
commercials. The big thing, like, as usual, people are like, I want the looking for group tool. I want it now. And, like, that's going on for, like, God knows how long. And then, big shocker, when ArenaNet brings it out, it's friggin' the most polished, well-developed, good-looking, like, does everything you could ever want. Like, if you need 2 people to scratch your butt, you can make a group for scratching your butt. Like, it just does everything. And it's polished. It looks so far. It looks great. And, of course, it'll probably have little bugs, a couple patches later, maybe a week. They'll have it sorted. But, instead of, like, them doing a bare minimum, they go and they do the right thing, and they release it when it's ready. Because there's plenty of other content out there, and you could get a freaking app on your phone for looking for group. Like, Jesus, I know it stinks, not everybody knows about it, but there are alternatives out there. And ArenaNet would rather put out polished content when it's ready than rushing it out there and then having, typical MMO disaster. So, all the people crying, I love you guys and girls, great people, but ArenaNet knows what the hell they're doing. So let's, it'll be ready, it'll be out, we can rate. And if you're like, I love when people are like, this has happened, and it's been months! It's been months! How old are you? I'm 20! So months. That's like 1/30th of your life, 1/40th of your life. Like, shut up. It's okay. Sorry, I'm ranting today.
Okay, so...
Yeah, personally,
Yeah, go on.
like, looking for group tools not really something I'll make use of. I don't really enjoy pugging. I don't really need to because I have a core group of friends I play with regularly. But, they knew it was something we wanted, and they knew that there were alternatives out there for the time being that worked. And so I think they're like, yeah, obviously we don't have an in-game version yet, but there are websites out there people have made to help with this, so we can take our time to perfect it. And I kind of appreciate that they do that.
Yeah, definitely. Anything else to mention with Tequatl Rising then? We don't really know that much yet, do we? I think we'll know more on Tuesday.
We'll probably know more on Tuesday.
I mean, we've seen the fight.
Yes.
What did they show today? Did they show
World v World?
It was World vs. World stuff. I haven't looked at it yet.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, I know Live Spartan has looked at it. That son of a gun.
Okay, so does anyone else have anything to mention that you want to bring up? Because I'm out of ideas. I'm done now. So I'll either of you two.
There was they've been doing stuff with karma lately. They basically made it so getting karma was stupidly easy to do. It was ridiculously easy to get massive amounts of karma. And then they've been, with this last patch, they've really cut it back a lot. They basically, all karma boosts and stuff like that, the gem store karma boosters, flags, guild boosts don't work on, jugs of karma and stuff you collect anymore. And then they also removed a lot of sources of karma as well. Bags of wondrous goods and dungeons don't give the drop of karma anymore. For your daily, instead of getting the jug of karma, which was 4,000 or whatever, you get a much smaller amount. I think it's under 1,000. So it just kind of feels weird that they put in so many ways of getting karma and then they just suddenly removed so many of them. Because I know when they removed the boosts from, working out, they said that they were going to increase the amount of karma you get from each item to compensate. And yes, a sip of karma gives more than it did before, but the actual karma items you're receiving are much less than they were before. So it kind of feels like they're not quite sure what they want to do with that.
I mean, to me, sometimes with the karma, it feels like exhibit, like, yo, dog, I heard you like karma, so I'm going to give karma with your karma. It feels like that. Because I literally have, everybody's got it. They got the stacks of karma in their bank right now, waiting for, when the guild, I call it the perfect karma storm. It's when, you have, the legendary banner, was it the war banner, the one that gives you all the buffs, and then, your guild does, karma buff, and then you buy a karma thing or you get one from somehow you get a key, Black Lion chest, you get a karma thing.
Get some ice cream, because that's karma buff food. We would call it karma drinking parties, so.
Yeah, everybody gets drunk on karma, so I guess, I don't know. I guess no more karma parties, but I don't know. I think they're still there. Everybody's still got a bunch of jugs and stuff in there. Sorry,
I stopped hoarding them a long time ago. And especially since it comes right after it became account-wide instead of character-bound. Trying to get enough obby shards for a legendary was such a pain because I had all these characters with tons of karma on them. Some of them weren't level 80. Some of them were, but hadn't been anywhere near Balth. And then, Balthazar is uncontested. Okay, now it's time to race every single character there as quickly as possible and spend all their karma. So, with that, it's a little easier because everything's account-bound. But at the same time, then they remove so many sources of it. It's kind of what are you guys doing?
Yeah. I guess getting the wallet, they could literally take away my ability to breathe. Once they invented the wallet, I'm all happy. It was just. You ask everybody what was the greatest,
Oh, it was totally the account wallet.
Yeah, so you can nerf karma all you want. I don't care as long as I have it in one place. You can give me a drop of karma every 5 years, and I'll be fine because it's all in one place. I'll have 5 karma sitting in that one spot, and that's it, and I'll be happy. It's fine.
Alright then. Anything else?
Different stuff? Yes, of course.
Okay.
The one thing that I find is interesting is there is a Reddit article, and basically they're saying, is broadness a weakness? And no, they're not talking about having wide shoulders. They're talking about, is an MMO too broad, where they're not focused enough to do one thing. And right there, we were talking about it before, literally, it was like a catapult in World v. World. My arm slingshotting to my face, and then it's slowly falling down like melting wax. Because that's what I mean, it's just me, and maybe it's like the mood I'm in today or something, or the day that I read it, where maybe I'm just, I'm out of there and I'm not in the mindset of other people. But you're dealing with an MMO. The foundation of MMOs was always that it's broader content. There's more stuff you can do. You can choose what you want to do. It's not geared towards one thing. Like, basically, I think MMOs are founded on that principle. So talking about is broadness a weakness?
I kind of feel like MMOs have to be very broad and have a lot to do in them because, well, a lot of the genre has moved on from the traditional, subscription-based MMO that was the most common, say, 10 years ago. Ultimately, when you're making an MMO, your goal is to get people to play and to keep playing as long as possible. And to keep that, to have that, you need to have a lot of stuff in there. Not to mention the fact that it's really kind of a thing that can appeal to a lot of different people. So you want to have open world content for the people who like that. You want to have, PvP for the people who like that. You want to have more difficult, say dungeons or raid type content for those people. And you're never gonna completely please everybody. You kind of got to find that, sweet spot where you've got enough to keep a lot of people interested and keep them playing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's really the strongest point. It's like it could be like a chicken and the egg. The chicken and the egg. Well, is it too broad and that made it a bad game, or is it just a bad design game and because of that it's broad? So it's kind of chicken and egg type of thing. What came first, or yada yada yada. But I think really it comes down to like you're gonna have your focus, or right now, ArenaNet's focus is PvE. It is putting resources towards everything, but they restructured the entire company for this living story. So they made like tremendous. I mean, whenever you hear restructuring, like Wall Street Journal or what's some popular newsy stuff in BBC, they say. This company has restructured. Rupert Murdoch restructured his nose, or something like that. It's like that's a big thing for a company. So when they said they had to restructure, that is just a big thing that went on. And of course, people are getting upset because, especially structured PvP, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, maybe, if Rowan says I'm allowed to. but basically, they did a huge, tremendous thing to the company. To do that because they're focusing on an area right now, their bread and butter, which is their PvE. And I think that the broadness factor of it, I think that might come down to, again, either the development or one of the main areas, the programming itself. You don't have good programmers, or the development or the managers, people who aren't able to delegate properly and say, or the management, and say, you know what, let's hold off on this and do that. I think it's all part of the way a company is run. You could say companies like Panasonic or Samsung, that they're in too much stuff, so then they become too broad. They don't have, it's just, I think it comes down to it's not a weakness. It's a good thing for an MMO like Fareen says, has to be broad. It has to, because when you're dropping tens of millions of dollars, like $20 million, unless you're Call of Duty and you're selling 1 billion copies every year to everybody in India and China, it's like the population of India and China. I mean, 2 billion copies. You got it. Like an MMO, you have to be broad because you have to appeal to more people. It's not, first-person shooters are mainstream right now. Most people play that. An MMO, you have there's different categories in an MMO: small scale, large scale, different types of PvP. So you have to kind of do everything. Example is SWTOR. People get upset about that crap, and they roll their eyes at it because it kind of didn't do the right thing. But the fact of the matter is, and this is not really dealing with SWTOR, it's that when SWTOR was supposed to be story-driven, that's what BioWare does well. The first thing people complained about was it didn't have PvP. So SWTOR wasn't broad enough. It didn't have the world PvP that everybody wanted, and yada, yada, yada. And that was a big complaint about it. So it's like you see that if you're not broad enough, then people are going to complain that you're not doing enough. So is broadness a weakness for Guild Wars 2? Absolutely not. I think they're doing a great job. Right now they're focused on one thing. They're focused on getting this PvE and the living story done. I think as far as Mike Zadrozny said, Mike Z said, but I listened to him say it, and I repeated it because I had him in an interview, and I repeated it, and I'm like, okay, I can do it. So, but as far as he said, the biggest thing about what they did this first year was they built a lot of tools to help them develop better. So there was a lot of stuff that we don't hear about that's going to make them more successful in the coming year, where the living story is not going to be easier, and then they can focus right now. Season 1 of World v. World. Hello? Like, right now they're switching gears to their second bread and butter, which is World v. World. And at the same time, they're also developing the achievement and progression system in structured PvP. But it's not the primary concern. Right now, they're not being broad, they're being focused. So I think, I don't know.
It also, like, the game is very successful so far, but also we need to keep in mind it's very young. It just hit its first birthday. So, I mean, the game is young. It hasn't been out for very long. And they've really only started with, I mean, technically the Living World stuff started back in November when they added Lost Shores. But the story arc we're playing now really started in January with Flame and Frost. It didn't really start to hit its stride until really March and April with the Molten Facility, and then over the summer when they switched over to the 2-week cycle. So, I mean, they're still trying to figure, I mean, it's still like a case where they're trying to find exactly what the right, basically, like I said before, the sweet spot, where exactly, is the best way to do things. And obviously not everything's going to work, but the game is young and they've got time to work it out.
Definitely.
I think I mean, like, when we're talking, this game is just a year old, so I think calling it too broad. Again, I think a lot of times people like to have those discussions. You know what I mean? I think that's what it comes down to, is people like having those hard-hitting, news at 7. Is Guild Wars 2 becoming too broad? Tune in at 7 o'clock for yada, yada, yada. And I think that's what, people like. They like having those hard-hitting discussions. You draw... Because basically, you could perceive anything. Like, you could perceive anything right now, and you could find ways to provide proof for your argument to support it. But I think when you really sit there and you try and take a more logical approach, I think that's the one strong thing that Marine has been consistently bringing up in this podcast, is it's like, let's think about what is really going on. Like, what are the things behind the scenes? Not because... they don't just puke out content. It has to be made. It has to be developed. That's one of the real strong things. It's still young, so to say they're too broad, you can't really make that judgment on an MMO that's 1 year old. I mean, you could say maybe if it's a mess, but it's not. And one thing I wanted to lead that up to make this episode even longer is the one thing I really think is people crying over the infinite token. I'm just like... People, listen, you know what really grinds my gears? Where you're complaining you have to spend money on the game to get gems, and you don't have to spend money in the game to get gems. You could spend in-game currency. Like, not only did ArenaNet say, oh, we're going to have a currency in the game that you could spend real-life cash on, but we're going to make it so you can actually take your gold, which isn't worth crap to us. We're not making any money off of it, and you can buy our in-game currency with your gold and not spend money. Hello? Do people forget? Like, somebody was on the thing like, well, no, gems are getting more expensive and I have to spend more money and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, no, I'm really ranting and really hard.
Your voice is just going,
A little bit.
Sorry, I'm just kind of charged up for work today. But it's just like, come on, people, like, you're spending gold on it. You know what? Open up your wallet, brush off the cobwebs, pull the spiders out, and give ArenaNet a couple dollars. I mean,
Personally,
Jesus Christmas.
Yeah, personally, I don't convert gold to gems simply because I feel like out of game I can make the money that, 800 gems costs a lot faster than I can make that money in game. Plus, at the same time, I like this game. I like these devs. They're not making me pay for anything other than buying the box. But they're also offering stuff we can buy if we want. It's like, yeah, I'll give them $5 so I can make a new character or whatever. I don't care.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like we're getting content faster than any other MMO that's been subscription ever. Like ever. And now we don't have to pay for it. And then people are crying because they have to spend extra gold. Like Mr. X said, if you think it's a bogus item, just spend gold on it. Like, just farm up a little bit to spend money if you don't like it. And I think it's like, but if you do like something, then you drop some dimes on it, some cash, like Marina's saying. And it makes perfect sense. But people have to sit there and say, oh, the infinite coin. Like, I can't believe I have to spend my gold on the infinite coin. It's like, exactly, you're not spending cash. Like, you don't have to spend cash. Okay, I'm bringing it down. Whew. You don't have to spend cash. You could just, get gold if you don't like it. And that's, hey, I don't know. I think, again, that really grinds my gears. And and I'm not going to talk about the structured PvP because I'm going to rant about that too. But I think what Live Spartan said is important. If any of you guys are into a little structured, you want to hear about it, there was, it's called State of the Game. You can go to Guild Wars 2 Guru. .com. They host it, so you can probably watch a VOD about it and see what is going on. And I think he laid out some stuff. The one thing I will say is, if you think this will be short, Ron, I promise.
Don't worry,
you think
take your time.
Okay? You think that they don't care? John Sharp, right? I mean, these guys just busted their butts for PAX because they had to organize that crap, and it didn't go out. Obviously, didn't go the way they planned it. It was their first try, so I give them a pass. Like, it's your first time trying to do this stuff with the new esports thing. This is brand new stuff. This esports, like, people say, oh, Guild Wars 1. Yeah, but it really wasn't like it is now. Like, esports, because of the big three, LoL, Dota, and StarCraft, it's now a different environment. It's becoming much, much more like high expectations. So Jonathan Sharp, just after finishing PAX, on Labor Day, which Labor Day in America is an oxymoron. It's supposed to take off on Labor Day. I don't know why they couldn't call, except for Marine. I wonder why they couldn't call it Laborless Day. I mean, whatever the case may be. He took that time to write a tiered, multiple posts addressing all of the stuff that's going on the forums, like the people in big guys quit and yada yada. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not talking about it. I promise myself. I promise you guys. But I think that the fact that he took his day off and wrote a near college essay in response to everything may not give the answers you want, but I still think it shows that he cares. Not only that, but they're on every you see Jonathan Peters, Carl, Isaac Cartwright. You see these guys, all the devs, the QA guys, on the streams, the PvP streams, talking, chatting, secretly banning people that they don't like. I mean, all this good stuff is going on, and people are still, they're questioning that people care, and they're talking about lazy devs. I hate that word. No dev is lazy.
They care. There's no way that they don't care. They definitely care, and they put a lot of themselves into it.
So,
which is I can understand people not agreeing with, say, what they're doing or what they're saying, but I do get really mad when people just go on a complete warpath talking crap about them. It's like, I don't think so. I kind of feel I don't think that everybody realizes that these devs are actual people.
Yeah.
And they are putting their lives into this game. Yeah. And they do care about it. It's maybe things aren't perfect. Maybe, stuff's not going the way they want to. Maybe they don't have all the resources they want. But it doesn't mean they're not making the most of what they have.
I mean,
and
go on.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, we saw at PAX, I think it was Angel McCoy, shed a tear when she was talking about how much she'd put into the game. She said like she put 1/10 of her life into this game. So I mean, obviously they care. So yeah, go on, Steve.
No, I think you're right. Like, she freaking cried, dude. Like, and then the
was
worst
crying
part
at
was
that
like
point.
somebody in the thing was like, and this hefty chick said something about structured PvP, yada yada yada. I was like, dude, are you goddamn serious? Like, I'm gonna
Yeah,
get myself
I couldn't see the chat because the Twitch app wasn't showing the chat, but I also had Twitter open, and a few of my friends mentioned that, and I was actually angry that people were actually being that nasty about someone talking about, how much what their work means to them, to the point where it's like, yes, they were emotional, and people were, putting her down because of it. That's horrible.
I mean, like, you could see, okay, like, it's not a free pass, but Twitch chat. Twitch chat is Twitch chat. It goes, and it's crazy. But when you see people, like, taking the time to do a Twitter or going on Reddit or the forums and then seeing me, like, because I think she also spoke about a little bit about structured, and she gave, like, for me, what it sounds like the response she gave was, like, what the structured guys were talking about. She probably overheard it. And then when somebody, like, zapped the question at her, she just gave the canned response that she heard them say. And they're like, well, how dare she say anything? The hefty chick with the nose ring or whatever, or I don't, she had a piercing somewhere, I forget. But they were like, yada, yada. I'm like, are you freaking serious? Like, I mean, just, again, I think, like, you speak volumes of saying, like, people don't identify developers as human beings that make mistakes. Oh, you mean developers aren't Jesus? It's like, are you serious, people? Like, people make mistakes.
They're humans. They're not robots.
They make mistakes. They don't have all the answers. And the other thing is the generalization. Like, people lump ArenaNet as one person. Like, it's one mind. It's like the board collective. They all have, like, things plugged into the back of their head, and they can communicate together. No, people are going to get things mixed up, and then they're going to have somebody to come in and clean it up. And that's just the way life is. How the hell did we get all the way over here? What are we talking about?
You brought us over here.
We started talking about PvP, and then we completely segued off somehow.
Sorry, guys.
Should we wrap it up then?
Nope, there's more stuff.
Is there?
I think we've pretty much covered everything on your list other than PvP, which you keep saying you're not going to talk about.
Okay, yeah, all right. I think I'm not going to talk about
PvP.
PvP. But I will say that they're doing a great job, and let's just cool. I think I mean, I love this game. You see how passionate I get about it? I really get upset when people talk bad about ArenaNet. They're like brothers and sisters from another mother type of deal. I love it. So that's about it. Yes, the internet anonymity rule. It's what was great? This is totally random and off subject, but that's kind of the way I work. This person rampaged.
Never noticed.
This person rampaged on Twitter, like dropping the C word and like saying all bad stuff about everything. And all of a sudden, you saw this old guy like, "Hey, I know you. Would you like me to copy this and send it to your mother?" And the next tweet from the guy was, "Oh no, I didn't mean it. It was just yada yada yada, this, that, yada." It was the greatest thing in the world. And if they had show it to your mama social networking, like if you say something, you have to take that, and if people don't like it, they have the opportunity, there's a little red button to show it to your mama, where it's going to send it right off to your mother, and then she's got to read what nasty, vile crap you're saying on the internet. And I think that would be the greatest invention in the history of the world, the greatest social network. People would love each other. There would be dogs, kittens, and rainbows everywhere. It'd be awesome. That's about it.
I think if something like that existed, more people would realize that they're not as anonymous on the internet as they think they are. And maybe they'd actually think about what they say, because yeah, people are not as anonymous as they think they are. And if you say something stupid on Twitter, it can get traced back to you pretty easily unless you have everything locked down really tight.
Yeah.
All right, then.
And I guess,
should we call it a day?
What about you, Rowan? Do you have anything, Rowan?
No. Drag this on any longer. All right, so as always, podcast@guildmag.com is the email address for your comments, suggestions, and whatnot. You can also use the comment system if you're watching the recorded version below on YouTube or the guildmag.com website. Of course, you can join us live every Friday, 5 p.m. Pacific time, and join in the chat. We do appreciate everyone that's comes and joins us. Don't forget to check out sittingonthecouch.com, guildmag.com, and of course, underthepaletree.net. That's the right URL, isn't it? Or is it the Pale Tree?
It's just the paletree.net.
There we go. I got it. So yeah, a big thanks to Vereen for joining us and stepping in at the last minute, and of course, yeah, round of applause. And happy birthday to Steve for tomorrow. I won't try and guess
Thanks.
how old you are.
Oh, that's right. That's why I talked about the hemorrhoids, because I said I was getting old because my birthday was next week. So that's where that came from, people. That's a reference to the beginning of the show, people who came late.
All right, so thanks for joining us, everyone, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Might be a surprise next week, maybe. But you just spoke. So right now it sounds like I'm talking to myself. Oh my god.